Alright everyone, so today we'll go over another connector on the data connect page of the INSEA application, and specifically today we'll be dealing with the Postgres SQL, also known in some cases as Postgres SQL. I've decided to take a simple IMDb movie dataset which has movies from 1990 all the way to 2020, and they have the ratings, the names of the cast, the directors, the genre of the movie, the box office revenue, and more such dimensions. To begin with, we simply come over onto the Postgres SQL connector right here on the icon, and you click on the configuration. You'll see two separate tabs, a new connection and an existing connection. Since we don't have any existing connections, you won't see any entry here, but as soon as I establish mine now, it will come up here in a list. And new connection, I'm basically going to give it a name, which is going to be test Postgres SQL con for connection. I have my credentials saved here in the notes, so my database is Postgres, which will go here. Next is my username, which is Postgres. Password, which is QWERTY@123. Then we have port, which is 5432. My host and IP address, which is this number, and my schema, which is public. And here we go, I'm going to select public. And as you're done, you click on continue, and you'll get the option which you get when you load a table. So new table, since we're loading the IMDb data, it's going to be IMDb test, and we are good. Select IMDb, everything comes up here, and that's it, we're done. This page is called the database transformation page, and this is essentially the most important page when you're loading a data set for the first time, because everything that you set here is how people will use it on the front. So for example, if you give this a name such as movie name, everybody on the front who will try using the search bar, whenever they do any type of analysis and they want to see it against the name, it will now be called movie name on the search bar. Alright, and in a whole, this page will give you a complete overview of your data set and list out a few examples. So for example, in movie name, it's listed out the first 50 or the first 100 movies, so that you can see what the data type is. And in our case, you can see that it's a proper text, which is simple English format. When you click on the drop down, you'll be able to see the different type of data types available, which is either the text, a number. Numbers are used for metrics to build KPIs, as well as the decimal type, again to build metrics and KPIs. Boolean are used to basically perform cuts on the platform, so they're taken as dimensions. Now date and date time are the ones which need a little bit of more attention. So when you want to set a date, you want to make sure that you set the format in a correct fashion so that the database catches it properly. So as you can see here, the release date of the movie. Now you're probably wondering, is it DDMMYY or YYMMDD? Which is why you scroll down and you see right here that 30th 10th 1992. So that has to be a DDMMYY, and you can quickly come here and change it. So while INSEA tries its best to provide you the right format, it's important that you diligently monitor that and set the date type properly. Date time, on the other hand, will have minutes, hours, and seconds along with it, but in our case we don't have a column like that. If you do, that would also be passed properly into the database. So that's our table. I have these column names which are fine. I do not want to make any changes. Release country looks good. Score, which is a decimal, as you can see here. Votes, which is a number. The rest of the things look good. Country, budget. Now gross. Now I do not want to call it gross. Instead I want to call it box office revenue. Always separate a name which has two words by an underscore so that the database can catch it easily. Awesome. and company looks good, runtime looks good. Now the last thing which you need to consider is whether you want to set a primary key or whether you want to load a table without a primary key. A primary key basically will help you uniquely identify a record, and in our case I will do that by selecting the movie name along with the release date. So next time if there's a data set loaded for movies after 2020, if it has movies for a time period less than 2020, it will not create a hindrance because my primary key will automatically filter it out and keep the latest records in place. Awesome. So I come and click on save. Now when you click on save, you'll see a message which will come up here called waiting in queue. Now waiting in queue is basically the step where the load file is happening, and it's telling you that we are trying to load your file onto the database, and if your file is a large file, it can take some time. By large file I mean any file which is above 500 MB. Otherwise it should be pretty quick, and we'll see how it goes here. So you see, save successful, metadata updated. Let's go for load table and let's see what happens. You see waiting in queue and done. So since our file was a pretty small file, we didn't have to wait a long time, and we're ready to go. So as soon as you see this message, first and foremost thing that you need to do is set a default date. Now you always want to select a date which you know about that governs the data set. In our case it's the release date, and once you set a default time, all the time series analysis and forecasting will be done on that date. Not only that, also the KPIs which you build automatically through the auto KPI will also catch this release date and showcase you the values. Perfect. So as a next step, you can choose one of the following. One is either you go back to the data connect, second you can add a KPI manually, and thirdly what we're going to do now is select auto KPI, where in NCR itself will try to build you some KPIs. I want to build KPIs on this table, IMDb test, so I click confirm, initializing, understanding table structure, and it's reading data types and building you the KPIs. There we go. So we have 7 new KPIs activated, and to view them you can simply go on the configuration file, or you can go directly to the search. But first let's have a look at the KPIs that NCR has built for us. So you can see the table name right away. From this table we have all these KPIs created directly by the auto KPIs. We have box office revenue, the budget, the runtime, score, votes, number of company, and number of movie name. For our example, let's take box office revenue and try to do some analysis on the search bar. So here we go. I go with box office revenue. It comes up as I type, and I'll cut it across year, which will now, as we said, the default date release date, it's going to cut on that. And straight away you can see how the box office revenue has been increasing till the time it falls down badly in 2020, most likely due to the COVID pandemic situation. And now let's narrow that down to last 9 years, and here we go. And perfect. Now what else would I want to see? Apart from that, I would like to see it against the movie name. There we go. Here you go. So you have the box office revenue for the last 9 years across all the movie names.